If you're a podcast host, listen up, this one's for you. My name is Allie Jackson. I'm the host of Finding Mr. Height, a dating and relationship podcast that I've been doing for 4 years now, sharing my positive and practical approach to dating that's built on my own life experience. And I wanted to share another experience that I've had, my secret behind monetizing my show. It's called Red Circle, and I was just telling my colleague about how much I love their platform. With Red Circle, not only am I getting a seamless hosting experience, but I also love the support I receive in ad sales. It's not just typical ad sales either. It's targeted opportunities based on my show and my life. And the platform is super simple. You just set your preferences and Red Circle matches you with sponsors that align with your show. You can vet every opportunity and their platform gives you great analytics. More recently too, my Red Circle team has brought me opportunities outside of my podcast on social media to really augment the podcast partnerships, bring them full circle. I just can't recommend them enough. If you want to give it a try, go to redcircle.com to get your free trial. That's redcircle.com for a free trial.
This is a More Than Just Podcast production.
Welcome to this podcast, Season 7, Episode 36. 36. My name is Tim Mitra. I am in Florenceville, Bristol.
Correct.
And I am joined by Jaime Lopez Jr. in Seattle, Washington.
How's it going?
And I'm also joined by Jonathan Kuhlin, who's also in Florence, Bristol.
Woohoo! How's it going, kids?
But technically he's in a different county because we're in different rooms in his little house.
Oh, folks, we're in for a roller coaster tonight.
And we're back. I should mention that too. Yeah, no, I was just telling Jaime before we started recording that this morning I had to go. I'm staying here obviously overnight and had to go and find the shower, and I got lost on the way to the shower this morning.
I like my house in the country. Okay.
I was going to say it's that mad podcast money in case people are wondering, right?
Yes, please donate to Patreon. We could use your funds.
Yes, sirree. Alrighty. Yeah, so it's been a minute since we were here, but last time I think Jonathan and I were talking about the animated series, TOS, I guess we call it. And there was an episode where it was some sort of machine that was, I don't know if it was Eating Planets. Was it Eating Planets? Yeah. So I forgot that the Doomsday Machine was actually the first sort of planet-eating thing. We were sort of alluding towards I think it was Star Trek 3, the one where or is it 2? Which was the one Spock dies in?
Spock dies in 2.
2. And isn't it the one where the planet-eating thing is coming towards them? The whales? So it's 4, episode 4.
So 1 and 4 have gigantic things that are coming towards Earth that are scary.
Right. Well, yeah. One is V'ger, and 4 is the sort of like the thing that looks like Rendezvous with Ram. I keep saying that too, right? Like So my sister and I. So that actually is the Doomsday Machine. Is actually the very first episode of Star Trek that I recall watching. Because my sister and I, she's younger than me, we called it the ice cream cone that ate planets, right? Because that's what it looked like. But now that they've re-rendered it, it doesn't look like an ice cream cone that eats planets anymore. So unfortunately, I know, eh? And then so that was season 2, episode 6. So even though my dad was introducing us to the show, even he wasn't watching it in the first season. This was October 20th, 1967. So I would have been 7 at that point. Yeah. Anyway, so that's just sort of the fact check for which I forgot to mention, the fact check for the last episode we recorded. And that having been said, we can move on to the headlines. And there's a bunch of different things coming here, but hold on to your hats, folks.
Yeah. We're going to recap a little bit some of the stuff that happened. We definitely want to touch on some Star Trek news that happened a little while ago, but we wanted to make sure we covered it here. So Star Trek Strange New Worlds is ending with Season 5. We got this news recently that they have, before the Season 3 premiere, which is next week, and of course we'll be here to cover it on Spotcast, they've already announced a 5th and final 6-episode season. So not only are we knowing that it's going to wrap up, and we know we're getting the fourth season, which we already knew we were getting, and now we're getting a fifth and final season, but it's only 6 episodes. I guess this checks out because it is 5 seems to be the magic number for all they want to do for this. It's what they did for Discovery. It's what they did for
you want to say Enterprise?
No, Enterprise was only 4. No, I was going to say for Lower Decks, they did 5. And they, obviously, Picard only was 3, but then it was only, like, it was going to be a lesser duration just because of, obviously, Patrick Stewart's age and everything. But yeah, it seems like, they are not doing 7 seasons and a pile of movies like they were doing in the past. They're doing 5 episode or 5 season arcs. And this one, I guess, makes sense too, because if it goes on for too long, it will run up against the original series, and it'll also run up against Christopher Pike's inevitable
demise. Yeah.
Well, demise. I don't know. He doesn't die. I suppose it's sort of a unfortunate incident, which, obviously we're going to hopefully get a little bit more, hopefully satisfying, not as constant vegetative state kind of thing out of this. I think we'd be really bummed if that's how it sort of ended, but I don't know. How do you guys feel about five seasons? Is this 5-year mission? Does that sound right?
Well, I think we knew that it had to be a finite number because of the prequel problem, right? And the fact that Christopher Pike has already seen his death in season 2, I think, right, or season 1. Yeah, I think that's I had something to say about this, but I'll let Jaime jump in with his sort of thoughts on just being 5 seasons.
Yeah, it's not unexpected given the precedence that was set, right, with Discovery and Lower Decks. The finite thing, having it be, 5-year mission, that kind of is on brand with 60s era Enterprise mission. So it makes sense. It'll be sad to see it go, just like we were sad to see some of the other series go. But it's better than them hanging around and wearing out their welcome. People want to think of it that way.
What I was going to say was, I find it ironic that now that we have AI technology, and recently I read an article, I'll have to find a link for it for the show notes, but about a person who's like a paraplegic or somebody who can't speak, right? Like Christopher Pike does in the Menagerie in the Menagerie, right? Yes, the Cage was the original series. Menagerie was the redo. The one where Spock gets the court-martial thing, right? But they now have technology where they can put a chip in your brain, and they can use AI, and you can use your brain waves to actually form words and have the computer speak for you, right? Not unlike the Stephen Hawking, but this is actually not using a keyboard or whatever to input your thoughts, but actually brainwaves making audible sounds that are words, right? So, because if you remember, and the reason why I said that was because actually in the image I saw on the post, the gentleman sitting in the chair looked like Christopher Pike in the Menagerie.
Yeah.
So you remember the 60s technology was all they had was like 2 lights, right?
Yeah.
A red one and a green one, right? Sort of thing.
Yeah, it's funny because, you can make a case for, well, would the technology have been quite that bad? You could also make a case for, is it kind of, more quote unquote woke to have somebody who's, got more functionality in a wheelchair than we did in a TV show that was recorded in the 1960s. Well, yeah, it is. Like I don't think we're quite as insensitive to somebody who's impaired like that, just sticking them in the chair with a light bulb that flashes yes or no. So it will be interesting to see how they play out that story. I mean, I think we've all come to love this version that's being played by Anson Mount of Pike, and I think we want a better and more satisfying conclusion than what we saw in that episode. So I don't know. I'm really curious to see how they land this plane. It is gonna, as you say, it's gonna collide with the prequel problem pretty hard. Is there a way to make it more satisfying? Is there a way to make it more satisfying for his crewmates? Who, in theory, at some point are gonna see him like this.
Or some of them going to die in the accident too. That's the other thing too, right? So
well, and they have the potential to do some interesting things too, because as much as we have come to love this, this crew, I think this is one of our favorite collective Star Trek shows that they've done. A lot of these characters are new. I mean, they have brought in the Spock character. Obviously, has been a staple. They've brought in a Kirk character. We're starting to get more of the, obviously, Uhura. We've gotten sort of the roundings of the TOS, the crew, but they could kill off and or do awful things with several other characters. I guess Jess Bush is playing Chapel. Chapel's still around. We know that, but there's still a few characters that they can mess with as we go here.
Yeah, and they've already killed off a few already, right? So,
well, yeah, I mean they introduced their Andorian engineer got the shaft after one season, so. But yeah, I mean I think 5 sounds like a good number. I am curious as to what precipitated the sort of decision to do 6 episodes instead of a full season to land the plane. Who knows? But it's also interesting because it means that we're going to be barring anything unforeseen as far as announcements, and we do have Comic-Con coming up, so we might get some more news. Who knows? But it will be interesting to see if we might just be down to within a couple of years, we could be down to just the Starfleet Academy series. So. Yeah, this will be like we've gone from this massive boom of Star Trek content over the past few years to not as much.
Yeah, we'll hopefully they see what they did right in the series and try to replicate it, right?
I'm just going to put my hat in the ring and say, bring back Lower Decks.
Yeah, Lower Decks 2, the next generation.
That's right. Yeah, even lower.
Even Lower Decks, yes, exactly. I was going to say before the other woke thing they could have done with the chair that Pike ends up in, they could have put 5 lights on it.
There are 5 lights. All right. Next up, so I think we had some sort of mixed feelings about the second season of The Last of Us. Obviously, it fans and critics alike sort of struggled with some parts, liked some parts, didn't like other parts. But in some corners of the internet, it got a little ugly. People were really not happy because I think everybody loved the first season, and the narrative decision to sort of really focus on sort of half of the story didn't sit well with people. And one of the people who took that very personally was Neil Druckmann, who is the co-creator of the original video game. He has announced that he's leaving his post as the co-showrunner of Last of Us before season 3 starts. He said he's going to still be involved. He's going to work alongside Craig Mazin, who was the showrunner, co-showrunner. He's going to stay on as the main showrunner. And obviously he's a very talented person, but it depends on how you spin this. The statement that he released basically said, hey, we're in a good place with this show. They're still, they're going to land the plane fine without me. I'm the creative executive at Naughty Dog. Naughty Dog's about to launch its next huge project called, weirdly, Intergalactic: The Heretic Prophet. Not a great title. They're going to work on that. That's going to be their next big project after, obviously, some pretty massive games for them. So he's going to go work on that. But obviously, the blowback on all this is definitely got to factor into this. I don't know. I guess it's disappointing from my perspective that anyone could feel bullied and or frustrated to the point that they don't want to do their job anymore. I think all of us have felt that at times, but the internet can be a little merciless.
But do you think that's the read on it? Do you think that's the case? Or what I recall from the game, and I got it back from you, so I'm going to try to replay it, but I do recall there being a lot of stuff about Abby, right? So I think my prediction is that season 3 is going to be Abby's story of this particular thread, right?
Yeah, and obviously, we're gonna touch on a bit of spoilers for season 2 here. So obviously, if you're not up to date on this, just skip ahead a minute or two. But the first season was obviously Joel and Ellie's story. The second season is, Ellie alone / Ellie with this new group of people, and it really kind of keeps that story separate from what's happening as she's chasing Abby through Seattle. The way they leave season 2 is basically that we sort of jump backwards in time to the beginning of this season and sort of get to the Abby character and her sort of concurrent experiences with what's going on with Ellie. And some people had sort of, some issues with that. The fact that it was, it's disjointed, and now we kind of leave on this cliffhanger, but we also, have to go back and see this whole next season from the perspective of someone else. And yeah, it definitely got slammed. I was spending some time reading some of the feedback, and there was an unfortunate amount of negativity.
Yeah, I mean, and I knew some people who watched the first episode of season 2, and because of what happens in that episode, they decided not to watch the show anymore.
Yeah.
They liked Pedro Pascal, and they didn't like the fact that,
Yeah, and obviously, if you played the game, you know what the narrative of the game is, and you know what the fate of Joel is. But I think for a lot of people who were unfamiliar with the original story, that caught them by surprise. And obviously, Pedro Pascal is one of the most beloved performers in the world right now, and so removing him from the story was obviously a pretty big blow for a lot of people. I don't know, Jaime, what's your take on this? Do you think that this is being bullied out? Do you think it's being spun?
It's tough to say, because the games industry is in a really weird spot. So it's very believable, the surface story that they tell. I could also believe if people struggled with this Ellie focus season, let's just, pull the parachutes and jump out before the Abby season comes up. It might be a reasonable career move you might make. So I really don't know how to read this.
Yeah. Well, either way, I mean, anytime you have the cooperation of an original creator, it can add depth and nuance. It can add, creative things, or it can also sometimes be an inhibition because they really want to stick to their narrative. It's hard to know. Everyone was raving. I heard some interviews with Neil and Craig Mazin when they did the first season, and apparently their collaborative relationship was great. I never heard a negative word about that experience. So, it's entirely possible that this is just sort of a combination of factors, and it was, it all just kind of happened together and in more coincidence than negativity. But I hate to think that what was driving Neil to leave is getting bombed. Well, speaking of bad news, we've got a few passings that we should talk about. People who have died in the time that we were off. The first one is Michael Madsen, best known probably for Reservoir Dogs, but from our world of sort of genre stuff, you can make a case Kill Bill is definitely sort of a fantasy kind of thing, but definitely Species was a big sort of movie in the 90s. He was one of the stars of that, and
not the one with
Natasha Henstridge.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. He was. He was one of the leads in that movie, and he unfortunately he died of heart failure last week. He was only 67, so very sad to see him go.
And his sister is Virginia Madsen, the actress.
That's his sister. Yeah. Really sad. We also lost Julian McMahon. He was the star of Nip Tuck. He also played Dr. Doom in the Fantastic Four movies starring Jessica Alba and et al. In the early 2000s. So he was definitely somebody who was sort of part of the larger nerdiverse. He unfortunately he died from cancer last week as well. So very sad. He was unfortunately only 56 years old. So a sad story. And the last person that we lost, I wanted to flag the composer of the theme for the X-Files, a man named Mark Snow, died at the age of 78. He not only created that theme, that famous dun, 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 he also created music for Smallville, The Twilight Zone, and a lot of other projects. So this is somebody whose work you are very, 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 very connected to, but did not know who he was. But and he did the music for the last sort of gasp of the Fox X-Men universe, the New Mutants, as well. So he kind of has a little bit of a tie-in to the end of an era there as well.
Yep. So. Sad news. No, I don't know who should take credit for these next two trailers, but I remember when they were posted in our Slack, but I know I saw this one on because I follow Edgar Wright, and Edgar Wright's the director of the Running Man redo. I was a little, taken aback with the idea of doing the Running Man again, but it's a Stephen King novel apparently, right? And so therefore, probably was a Hollywood take on the story, and hopefully they're going to improve it. Whatever. I did notice when watching the trailers that the evil goaltenders aren't in it anymore.
Maybe they'll surprise us. Who knows?
Yeah.
But Glenn Powell is taking the role that many people instantly think of for Arnold Schwarzenegger, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And it looks to be a little bit truer. So I'll admit it's been like 30 years since I read that book, but the version that was done with Arnold Schwarzenegger was always as very much reflective of the era, as well as obviously Arnold's films, was a very over-the-top interpretation of the Stephen King alias Richard Bachman book. This one seems a little bit more grounded, and actually, obviously, given some of the crazier times that we live in right now, doesn't seem too far off.
Right.
Felt more unfortunately plausible than I think I was comfortable with.
Well, the interesting thing about the Schwarzenegger one for a second is it also, the host of the show was Richard Dawson, who was this sort of smarmy host of the Family Feud for many, many years. And he overdoes this smarminess. And those of us who are old enough would remember him from Hogan's Heroes. But yeah, so that was why it was interesting that he was the sort of antagonist in that particular thing. But this sounds like a different story from what I can gather. It's sort of like you get this tag, and I guess it's a way of paying off debts or something, and then everybody can get you, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's kind of, it feels like a combination of The Running Man with The Purge in its kind of way. Yeah, I mean, I'll be honest, I also was like, and then I heard Edgar, and I was like, well, okay, I love Edgar's work, so I was willing to give it a shot, but it does look good. Jaime, did you like this? Did you find this interesting, or is this why are we doing this again?
I'm interested. So the Running Man movie with Arnold Schwarzenegger is very interesting, kind of beloved for some of the zaniness that it has. I don't know that it's an untouchable film. Like, this isn't, this isn't like, oh my gosh, they're pound out, trampling all over a masterpiece. I'm okay with seeing a different take on this,
Yeah, it's kind of like, Total Recall was, Total Recall was the redo of that was almost, the Schwarzenegger one in a lot of ways was better, but yeah, this one, hopefully, I'm willing to agree that it probably could be done better without that sort of style of making movies, right?
Yeah, no, it's definitely, it'll be interesting to see how our times affect the story, for sure. The other trailer that we flagged here for me was way more interesting, just because I just recently finished the book, and also because it definitely had echoes of a very popular movie from a few years ago, also written by the same person. But the trailer for Project Hail Mary came out, and it looks pretty good. It looks very much like The Martian, which is no coincidence given that Andy Weir wrote both of them.
Yeah, and it's interesting, like, as I read the book too, and I was just thinking, when you mentioned they were going to make a movie out of this, I kept thinking to myself, how are they going to do this, right? And it does seem plausible now that I see that the sort of take that they've done you're presenting in this trailer. I want to know from Jaime, do you have you heard the controversy about that people are upset about the spoiler in it? Did you sense anything that was a spoilerific for you?
I am kind of curious what they think is the spoiler, because the trailer's, kind of in that modern style of giving away too much. So if spoiler thing was supposed to not be on the collector's cups at Taco Bell or something, maybe having not read the source material, I'm like, oh, was that the spoiler? I mean, 100% that was going to be on the Taco Bell cups. But I don't know. Maybe it was supposed to be like a twist.
I think you've lost me, but yeah, Jonathan and I both kind of I first I said to Jonathan a couple weeks ago or a week ago, what is the spoiler? Is it this? And he said, yes, it's that, right? And I don't know. I'm asking someone who's not read the book. If you did, do you think what was the most surprising thing in the movie, or in the trailer, I should say, that you weren't expecting?
I mean, I expected it to be like The Martian, where it's a bit more grounded is going to sound like the wrong word here, but more like, oh, okay, that's a normal astronaut lost in space, got it. Throwing in other folks there that he encounters. I'm like, oh, now it's kind of more like sci-fi at that point than space drama.
Yeah, I guess that's a good point.
Or maybe restate it. It becomes a space drama instead of a drama in space. Is maybe the better way of putting that.
Yeah, I don't think. Well, I mean, I don't know if it's a spoiler for people, but the 3 books that he's written, or the 2 other books he wrote since The Martian, are both in that sort of first-person narrative style, right? Where it's a person who's going through this and has to sort things out, right? And it's interesting because I mean, I like the gist of the book is the guy wakes up in space and he has no idea who he is or how he got there and has to figure all that out, right? So, but I don't know. I don't know. I'm still interested in seeing the movie, right? So,
yeah, I didn't. I agree that for some people, obviously, who didn't know about the story, it definitely comes off as a little more sci-fi fantasy with watching this trailer. Is it going to dissuade you? I don't know. It's a really tough question. I knew what was going to happen in the story. The trailer looked terrific to me. It reminds me very much of The Martian. It's going to be a lot of FaceTime with Ryan Gosling, who's just going to be talking to himself and to a camera, and eventually to other things in space. I think it's going to be a good movie. It's just a question of whether that was going to be a surprise for some people, and clearly it's not meant to be that surprising. I guess the idea is that this book's been out for long enough that they feel like that information was out enough that they could be out there. I don't know. I was surprised when I saw the people kvetching about it, but then I knew what happens, so it wasn't really a good target for that.
So, but Hail Mary, is it the 3rd in the series or the 2nd in the series? So how about Artemis was?
Artemis is 2, but they're not. None of them. They're obviously not connected, right? Like none of the stories are connected. But yeah, he's only written 3 books so far. He did The Martian, he did Artemis, and he did Project Hail Mary. They were working for a while on an Artemis movie, but I don't know where that stands right now. I thought that might make a better 8-episode Apple TV series or something. But
sure, yeah.
But it'll be interesting to see. I mean, people I think didn't respond as well. They liked Artemis, but they didn't love it. But Project Hail Mary was very much more that first-person narrative style, and I think people liked it a little bit more and sort of definitely brought it more towards that, comparisons to The Martian and favorability. So. And it's worth mentioning, not only is this a Ryan Gosling project, not only is this an Andy Weir project, this is also a Lord and Miller project. These are the 2 people who were working on the Solo movie and then got unceremoniously left behind and went over and instead did the first 2 and are continuing to work on the 3rd Miles Morales Spider-Man movies, Into the Spider-Verse movies, which are much beloved. So these are people with a great track record as well. So lots of quality and talented people working on this, so has the potential to be really really great. And yeah, like I say, nothing in the trailer took me aback. I was very much like, yes, where do I sign?
So the next story I've got here, I'm just do some quick checking here. Okay. So Slow Horses, has just been announced here in this story in 9 to 5 Mac, has been signed or greenlighted for season 7. And we know from the fact that if you watch season 5, spoilers, the trailer at the end of season 5 shows a lot of detail about season 6, which makes us all think that they're filmed concurrently or at the same time, right? So that generally, and some of the interviews I've seen with the cast, they do sort of say, yes, that's the case, that they have already done parts of season 6. So the fact that they're getting season 7 is good. And I think there's 7 or 8 books. So I did read one of them, which is unrelated to the series. I read the first one, which is identical to the first series. And then, but there's a book for each of the series. Actually, I shouldn't say that. I probably have read a bunch of them, but the names of the season is the same as the book that goes with, right? So good. I mean, it's a favorite show of ours. Not really sci-fi, but still, I think up there with Andor in terms of quality of show making, right? So that's my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, I love Slow Horses. I don't see how anything touches Andor anymore. I just don't. That to me really is holding the belt for a while.
True. Yeah. Well, and it's funny because I've even heard people in the media talking about like people like on newscasts and like, people who are outside of the whole sci-fi, even Star Wars realm, saying you should watch Andor, if nothing else, and you don't need to know Star Wars to know Andor. And by the way, Diego Luna hosted
Jimmy Kimmel.
Jimmy Kimmel the first week of his vacation, and there was a day where he had with him and Guillermo and the Cleto and the Cletones band. They renamed the band to give it a sort of more Hispanic name, and he pointed out that this was the first time an entire Mexican cast was running the show.
That's cool.
Running a show in America, right? Including the guests.
Nice.
Which, there were 47 reasons why that would, make people go crazy, right?
Yeah. And some of the bits they did last week were really funny too, where he and Alan Tudyk went down to Hollywood Boulevard dressed as stormtroopers. If you haven't seen that, check it out on YouTube. It's very, very funny. The two of them put on the full Star Wars stormtrooper costumes and walked around and started posing for pictures with tourists. And yeah, it's
and
really...
then there's one where they take off their helmets and he says, take off your helmet, and Alan takes off his helmet, and the guy there's like a Star Wars fan. He's speechless.
Yeah.
And then Diego Luna takes off his helmet, and he's like doubly speechless.
Yeah.
If only.
Yeah, for sure.
And then I got another story here, which is kind of like it's typical crossover with more than just code, is I like to say. I did, and spoilers, I did go see the F1 movie, which I'll talk about a little bit later. But I thought this was interesting. Before the movie came out, my wife Carol watches F1 every Saturday that it's on in the morning. She watches pre-qualifying on Saturdays, and then she watches the race on Saturday mornings, right? Because usually it's like at a weird time because it's in a different, it's a different part of Europe or whatever. So it's on before I even get up, or kind of thing. But Apple put together, there's a camera that sits on a wing on top of just above the driver, which they use to give you the in-person car experience during the race, right? As well as a bunch of other cameras, and they monitor the conversations between the pit crews and the drivers. And so there's a whole lot of, like, if you're an F1 fan, there's even apps you can get to have displaying the feed of them going around the track on your iPad or Android tablet if you're so inclined, right? So they're very involved in sort of using technology to do that. But what Apple wanted to do was there's a couple of things about it, and I'll talk a bit more when I talk about my pick. But in this particular case, they took apart parts of iPhone 15 technology and put it into this little camera. It looks like a little air wing. Like it's shaped like, it's got a round front and it's kind of it's about 10 inches wide and tapers. There's a picture of it in the post I've got here in the show notes. And they used that to make special iPhone cameras to film the actual drivers on the F1 circuit while they made the movie. So instead of using the normal one they use for the feed, so they were able to use the Apple technology to do a bunch of things, and they had cameras stuck onto the cars as well as they went around the tracks and stuff. So yeah, really interesting technology used there in terms of taking apart or using parts of the iPhone 15 to make this special camera. And then this other one, I'm not really following the Switch 2 story, other than I do know that they were very unobtainium, and there was challenges with tariffs and things like that in terms of getting them into the country initially, hard to get. And then I heard this story here is that some thieves had stolen 3,000 Switch 2s, I believe in Texas, right? So I don't know if you guys have an opinion on this story, or you're the gamer guys, not me.
I don't know. When people talk about stolen Switch in the same story, I think of people who spent the money on that thing because it's insanely expensive.
Yeah, isn't it? It's like more than a PlayStation 5 kind of pricing.
Yeah, it's right up there. It's not. I don't think it's quite a PlayStation 5 Pro, but it's very expensive for a system that is not super powerful or anything. It doesn't have a long life. So no. I mean, obviously I would never condone grand theft, but I'm not surprised because the market for those that are not full price, I'm sure must be very high right now.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, they're saying here in American prices that it's $449. But if you got it with the Mario Kart bundle, it's $499.99, so $499. And there was about 1.4 million of them were stolen. So interesting.
Yeah. So makes sense.
I'm curious about this one, about them knowing exactly which truck had it, because normally what you end up with is something a little bit smaller scale, like an iPhone season. It's like, oh, look, there's the UPS truck. Let me just follow behind. And if they pull out a little box that seems about the size of the iPhone box, you go yoink it from the front door, right? But this was like, I assume, unless it had a big old red Mario face and Switch 2 inside in lights, I don't know how you would know that this truck had them versus, some other truck. It seems like a high risk there.
Yeah, I mean, you could have ended up with not quite what you thought you were getting, but
just rolls and rolls of toilet paper. It's coming from like the Bounty factory.
Yeah, really.
Yeah. By the way, a bit of fact check on the real-time fact check on the Slow Horses. We haven't got season 5 yet. We're waiting for it in September. So,
right.
Over to you, Jaime.
Yeah. So Canadians getting into AI hoaxes, huh? The Velvet Sundown.
We just learned about it, eh?
Yeah, it's kind of fascinating. I did listen to the. I didn't listen to the entire album, to be fair. I did just go on YouTube and find the tracks, and they're they're fine. They're kind of bland and pretty believable. Like if I didn't know going into it to be paying attention for, does this sound like AI? I probably would be like, oh, okay, cool. It's just like yet another band, on the Spotify list kind of thing, or the SoundCloud list. So this is another one of those stories that kind of crosses the boundaries between like more than just code and Spockcast with the AI angle to this.
Yeah, and it's just interesting. I found out about it from Rick Beato. I follow his. He takes apart different. Talked about him on the show before, but he takes apart different songs and breaks them down and gives some backstory and talks about the actual chords and stuff like that used in it. And what he does here is he takes a real analog recording of real people and takes the tracks apart and runs them through an analyzer, which in fact uses AI to determine if there's any anomalies in the recording, right? And of course, there aren't, because in the original analog recording, because there are natural sounds and natural things occurring. But when he ran this album, this group's album through, or songs through the analysis, they found there was a lot of artificial garbage, like in the tracks, like you know what I mean, like normal harmonics and studio sounds and tape hisses and all those kind of things that would normally get into any kind of recording or any kind of like playing where you're playing by hand. There's going to be mechanical mistakes you make, sort of thing. The AI tries to put those things in, but because it's sampling from different places, it puts in these sort of, I think, they're not quite hallucinations, but they're not actually naturally there. So when you listen to just the vocal track or listen to just the drums, there's a lot of artificial junk in there. And that's how you're able to tell it's an AI at this point in time, right? But I hadn't heard that this was, and the other point that Rick Beato points out is that, is it's making money on Spotify, right? Like and it's, so technically it's stealing money from other real artists, but like who's getting the benefit of that, right? Like normally the money's made would go to like, a publisher or an artist, but in this case, where does who's paying the AI, right? Like there is no band to pay, right?
Mm-hmm.
So whoever published it is getting the lion's share of the profit. But it was, so in the article, I didn't read the article. Maybe are they saying it was a hoax that they put up to test the system, or?
I mean, hoax is kind of a weird one because the first line here from where's this CBC is a Canadian who duped journalists in an elaborate AI music hoax. Says he apologizes to anyone hurt by his experiment, but that it's been too fascinating to turn away from. That's I don't, without having seen exactly how things were presented in the way things, like I'll admit I was like too lazy to go do research on here. Because hear me out, right? One side may say, oh, it's faking as if this band exists and it's all AI generated. But then I would say, help me understand how that is different than VTubers on YouTube, video or virtual YouTubers, or tell me how that's different from like Hatsune Miku, a completely AI or machine generated musician, right? That's the hoax part. Is the part that I'm like, did they have social media accounts where they're pretending to be the individual members? Okay, that might be a little further, but again, not really that different than being able to talk to any other social media influencer. The hoax part is the part that I'm a little less clear on. Like, did they have concerts ready to go? And oh, sorry guys, we got sick. Oh, sorry, got sick. It's a good thing I have this socialized healthcare to take care of me, but I won't be able to make it. I won't be able to make it this afternoon for the gig. Like, where's the hoax?
Yeah, it's definitely murky territory. I can't recall who it was. I don't know if it was Rick Beato. It was somebody I watched on YouTube recently was doing a breakdown of. You're both familiar with the song that Godier put out like 15 years ago. Somebody I used to know. He recorded that in his home, and a lot of the music from that was taken from other songs. He basically took like this particular snare hit from this one song, and he basically put together this song and layered it all together and made this song. And obviously he did put some original thought into it. I'm by no means impugning his creative process, but it's not entirely dissimilar to what an AI program does, where it basically pulls pieces from other things that exist and then sort of puts them all together. It really is kind of a murky territory, because theoretically, is a artificially generated song the sum of its instructions, or is it a sum of its stolen possessions?
Well, so here's an interesting thing about AI, and because I have a friend of mine who pointed me out to like this large language model thing. Like Jaime and I are both coders, and I've been using AI a lot in my work because it does a lot of the drudgery of development for me, right? It's not that I'm like someone who doesn't know how to program, and I'm using this to do it. I'm using it to get rid of some of the mundane aspects of my work. But the way that LLMs work, and whether it's using it for creative writing or for coding, is it has a large dictionary or a large model of words, right? And it looks at, if you put these words together in this particular order, what is the most likely situation that assembling these other words is the same is the correct answer, right? And it almost seems magical, but what it's doing is it's looking at patterns that are out there in the universe, and like English language or Shakespeare or whatever, and putting together like if Shakespeare was to write the paragraph you just fed it or prompted it with, what is the most likely way that Shakespeare would form a sentence as an answer, kind of thing, right? If you think about it that way. Or how would an Irish person say this, or whatever? You know what I mean? Like that's kind of what these models are doing. So, and I'm huge. Trust me, as an artist, I am not a fan of AI generated art. I have used it and I have taken advantage of it, but I'm not a fan of everybody making their Genmojis and turning themselves into animations. Also, some of them are interesting. I saw a friend of mine did a video the other day where they made themselves look like characters from Wallace and Gromit, that's fun, but they're not intentionally stealing money from Wallace and Gromit. It's in a style, and I do know from some of the AI tools that I've used, you can't say to most of the, I guess I'm going to say air quotes, the legitimate AIs, you can't say to them, make me something in the style of The Simpsons. It'll say, can't do The Simpsons, right? Like it won't let you prompt it to make something a copy of something that's like a brand or whatever, right? You can say, make me a painting in the style of the abstract expressionists of the New York school, but you can't say, make me a Jackson Pollock. You know what I mean? So the question is, the source material that this stuff, who owns the English language? In the example I just gave at the beginning of this thread, right, is like I said, it's just what is the most likely combination of words that would make sense in the context of the question or prompt you've given the AI generator, right? So, Apple's getting involved in AI and all kinds of, everybody and his brother is getting involved in using AI for everything. It's the current buzzword, but whether or not I'm less tending to believe this stuff is stolen than it is looking at the patterns that we use in our work and our creativity. So, it's probably looking at the way that music is structured, right? And the way that, Taylor Swift writes for the words down and the ones that get the most hits on Spotify, and then doing a mathematical calculation to generate the next pop song, right? Notwithstanding the generation of pop songs over time have been, different schools of thought or different situations, like how did Nirvana write music and how did, Pearl Jam write music, even though they came from the same area of the country and they were influenced by theoretically similar things, right? They're not the same. The music isn't the same, right? But, they both, you could look for patterns in the way that Kurt Cobain and the members of Pearl Jam were raised or influenced by, and that came to those sort of conclusions, right? So it's a tough argument to say whether AI generated stuff is it's not creative, right? It's derivative for sure, but most Hollywood plots are derivative. Let's be honest, right?
Well, and you can make a case that someone unintentionally or intentionally is basically doing what AI has been asked to do by cranking out the same formula for TV shows. We talk about it with Star Trek all the time. Some of this is very well-worn territory. It's just, hey, what if we take our characters and put them in this situation? How would they react? And again, it's not entirely negative. It's just, where's the line between something that is genuinely original and something that isn't?
Yeah, and what I'm saying though is I think that if AI or an AI produced work is pretending to be genuine, I think that's the conceit, right? Because it's not. It's a derivative of things that have happened before. But then, by the same token, though, any artist or any painter or any architect or whatever, they're mimicking what they've learned before. It's just, I think there is a creative spark in the human being, right? That allows us to come up with original thoughts and original concepts, right? Which is why you're able to get painting that evolves, or architecture that evolves, or music that evolves, right? Except for the blues. The blues is always the same. You know what I mean?
Yeah. You know what I
mean? Like at its core, the blues is always the same, but it's the way you approach the guitar and the way you sing, put together the solo and stuff that's different, right? But,
well, this was a Definitely a good topic for us to cover because clearly it's a divisive and thought-provoking one for sure.
Yeah. Well, that said, I'm not really a watcher of King of the Hill, so I'm kind of curious about the next story.
Yeah, King of the Hill was, one of those classics, lasted forever, quietly, without major controversy. Quietly went away after having a series finale. But 15 years later, as it says here on this article from The Verge, it's coming back. People keep saying reboot, not a reboot, because it's not, starting with a new Hank Hill or something. It's a continuation of the story. So coming on August 4th, and this trailer, it gives me a lot of, definitely feels like King of the Hill. They're dealing with more modern things like how do you kick someone's butt if they're on a Zoom webinar, and what's it like to have craft beers instead of Alamo beer? I think they drink in the show.
Yeah, I heard they're actually, to celebrate, they're making Alamo beer for this.
There you go. See, yep, mm-hmm. Yep.
I was a casual fan. I enjoyed episodes, but I didn't watch it regularly. But I know that it definitely has a huge place in the zeitgeist. So it'll be interesting to see if it can recapture that here in 2025.
Yep. All right. Well, that brings us to the main part of the show. Should we do the Star Trek stuff first, which we shouldn't tend to do?
I will let you make the call, buddy.
Mm-hmm. All right, we're back again where we talk about something Star Trek related. And guess what? We have something Star Trek related. We are still covering the original series, the original animated, sorry, not the original series, Star Trek, the animated series, or the original animated series, if you consider it in context of Lower Decks. But, so we're talking about 2 episodes here, season 1, episode 5 and 6. 5 is the More Trouble with More Tribbles. More Tribbles, More Troubles. And which is not to be confused with the Trouble with Tribbles, which is the first. Was it? Wait, I'm lost. Trouble with Tribbles is the original series one. And what was the name of the one in Deep Space Nine? Nobody knows.
It's just like Trials and Tribulations or something.
Yeah, I was gonna say it was a pun on Tribbles. Yeah, I think you might be right, Jaime.
Yeah, and in that one, if you haven't seen it, it's the original show from the original series merged together with the characters of Deep Space Nine. So Dax and Sisko. Yeah, Dax and Sisko. Yeah, exactly. Dax and Sisko are in it, but then so are the original cast: James Doohan and William Shatner and Spock and McCoy, right? And the famous Klingons who are the bad guys in that episode. Yeah, and Milton the Toaster. So if you get that reference, but so this is the animated series version of Tribbles, and it's interesting because the gentleman that brings I'm trying to roll a blank on his name, but the gentleman who brings the Tribbles to the Enterprise this time around, somehow they don't remember him.
No, they seem to. They seem to.
Do they?
Know that he's a ne'er-do-well. Again, it's that same. I don't know if it's the same voice actor or if it's just the same character, but yeah.
Yeah, I think it is similar. Yeah. So, what did you think about the episode there, Jaime?
It is kind of interesting that it's like not that far distant from the original Tribbles. So the DS9 and other ones that we've seen are considerably further away from the 60s. So, kind of interesting that this one was a follow-up so much closer, not just in the chronology of the lore, but also just in real time that much closer. And so I think that's where it's supposed to be much more in your memory. Like I didn't remember that there was like a dude who was supposed to be helping with the Tribbles from that space station for the previous episode.
You mean the gentleman who brought the Tribbles, who was selling them?
Yeah.
Yeah, he was the guy. He sells them to Uhura, and that's how they end up on the bridge, right? Yeah, he's like a traveling salesman type of character, right?
Yeah,
who brings the Tribbles to the space station, and of course the Tribbles destroy the quidocalene crop, which I believe is being transported by the Enterprise as well, right?
Quintro Tecale. I wrote that one down. Yeah, Yeah, it's basically like space wheat, amazing space wheat. Yeah, I thought this episode, it's funny because when I saw the title, I was like, oh, Tribble episode. Okay, those usually are a little more lighthearted. This one, it is, but it's also kind of, it's weird. It's a very weird episode. The idea is that they're supposed to be bringing this special wheat to save these people who are starving, but then they basically rescue this dude with these are special tribbles that don't reproduce, but they apparently consume and grow larger and larger, which kind of steps on that Prodigy second season giant tribble thing a little bit, or maybe it was the precursor to that. And then they introduced the idea that the Klingons created basically this insatiable tribble eating predator that the guy demonstrates it by having it murder a tribble, which is pretty dark. They're all, the tribbles are pink. They don't look like the little sort of furry hamstery kind of things. They're all pink, and they're like, watch this. And they just literally sacrifice a tribble, which I thought was pretty dark. This was a fun-ish episode, but I think my original observation when we started talking about the animated series is that it doesn't have as much of that sort of the banter, the wit that maybe the original series had. This one is another one where they would have been making more jokes, I think, on the original series. Just more William Shatner wry smiles, more eyebrow cocks from Leonard Nimoy as Spock, more quick quippy one-liners from Bones. It just feels like honestly, it feels like a dollar store version of a Star Trek story or something. It feels like something's missing, right?
Yeah, like the Golden Book version of the show, right?
Yeah. It's just something's just not quite right, and again, it's not terrible. I still enjoyed it. It just feels like something's not quite the way I think I want it to be. But yeah, it was fun. It was again, I enjoy the series. It does feel very true to the original series, except for that sort of bit of wit that sometimes is missing. That being said, we'll talk about the next episode. I did find that there was more of that banter by the time we got, so maybe this is an evolution.
Yeah, true. And before we go into that, Stanley Adams plays Cyrano Jones.
That's the character. There we go.
And he is he's uncredited in this show, but it's the same voice actor as you asked, right?
Yeah.
But he also played the giant carrot in Lost in Space, and he was also the main character in Breakfast at Tiffany's. He was that guy back in the 60s and 70s, right? You'd see him occasionally in a very distinctive voice, right?
Yeah. Yeah, he seemed like he had one of those great voices for animation too. He just got that very distinctive voice, yeah.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say that I think that for me, Trouble with Tribbles was the sort of first comedic episode of Star Trek that I remember seeing, right?
Yeah.
I mean that because all the other episodes before that, I think they took themselves a little too seriously, right?
But I feel like that's when the original series unlocked itself, where it went from being something that was very kind of straight, pretty serious kind of sci-fi, when they started getting more collegial and just, when Bones and Spock started, taking the piss out of each other and whatever, that really felt like it was a step forward, right?
Yeah, and I'm just looking it up here. Yeah, so it was in the middle of season 2. Amok Time was the first episode of season 2, which is the Spock episode, Spock in Heat episode.
Oh, yeah.
The 4th episode was Mirror Mirror. Doomsday Machine was the 6th episode. Cat's Paw was the one where they sort of had the witches. Remember the cat?
Oh, yeah.
And Harry Mudd, I Mudd was episode 8. So, yeah, so it was before, it was about the time when they were starting to get fun. It wasn't the first fun one, right? Sort of thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it was season 2 had some great episodes.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So the second one,
The Survivor.
This, again, well-worn territory. There's somebody amongst us, and they may be taking our form, and who can you trust? What makes those kinds of episodes, and again, old trope in storytelling, who can you trust, paranoia, all that stuff. The thing that was kind of missing in this one was just it struggles in a 22-minute episode. Like, they don't give you enough time. Like, the sort of mysterious alien character comes in and impersonates a couple of the characters, and they get suspicious and they figure it out. But it's over and done really fast. You're like, wow, that was a huge bunch of leaps of logic to get to that point, right?
Especially in the kids' show.
Well, I don't know. The more I watch this, the more I'm like, wow, like, damn, were kids like way smarter in the 70s? And because like, I just don't think this show could hold the attention of a child.
Oh, really?
I don't know. Like, we talked about how it feels pretty faithful to the original series and not necessarily, like, for lack of a better term, and I don't like it, but dumbed down. It's not dumbed down. It's not at all. As a matter of fact, there are stretches of this where you're like, a little heavy for a kid's show. But maybe that's much more reflective of the era or the intelligence of the audience, or who knows. But to me, it was just like,
I suspect it was probably Gene Roddenberry, because he was very strong in what he thought this universe was going to be, right? Or where the show was going to be, right?
Yeah.
And he was very much involved in it because his wife did the voice, right, of the computer.
Well, she did another character. She did some random alien cat lady in this one too.
Yeah.
I don't know. What'd you think, Jaime? Does this one have a standout moment for you?
There's a couple things. One, in line with agreeing with, man, how are little kids watching this? Like, this is a much more adult, not in a like sexual way, but just like, hey, this dude was your fiance. We thought he was lost and dead. He's back. Oh no, he doesn't want to be with you anymore. I was like, wow, that's a lot to
and it's pretty dark about it too. Like, yeah, it definitely. But again, like, that was also a bit of a ultimately unsatisfying scene, because it's just like, it's nice to see you, and also I'm leaving you. And she's like, okay. And she like rolls a tear, and then everybody just sort of moves on. Again, it's a struggle to make these episodes dramatic in a very short amount of time, right?
Yeah. The other thing that I did like was that they figure out that Dr. McCoy is fake because he admits that he might have made a mistake. And they're like, no way. That's 100% not that dude. He's fake.
Yeah. When the lack of humility is the thing that betrays you, you probably want to take a look in the mirror. Yeah. Overall, good. I enjoyed both these episodes. I'm enjoying the rewatch of this. Again, it's been quite a while, almost 20 years, I think, since the last time I watched this whole series. So it's been fun to revisit from this perspective, and having seen so much more Trek since then. So
yeah, I don't think I've ever watched the whole series. So, but I have. I remember watching it when it was being broadcast. Because, like I said, there was a drought of Star Trek at that point, right?
Yeah.
And we didn't. I think it wasn't until I got to like university age that we really started examining the play between Kirk and McCoy and Spock, right? The three of them.
And it's funny because it's kind of become an archetype over the course of time too. The three characters who have different relationships with one another, but are this sort of trio. There certainly are those.
Well, it could also be argued that they're like id, ego, and superego, right?
Oh yeah.
Cool. All right.
Now, a word from our sponsor. Now, back to the show.
So we talk about the Ironheart thingy, Marvel's Ironheart.
Yeah.
Well, I can say, so we just watched season 1, episode 1 to 6 got dropped all at once.
Well,
I think, right?
Two weeks.
Sorry. So yeah, sorry. 3. Yeah, 1, 2, 3, and then by the time I started watching it, everything was out. But I started watching the first episode. I really had a hard time with the first 20 minutes or so of that show, because it was just a bit all over the place, and just sort of, and I don't know, almost like I saw a professor do a speech to Gen Alpha, where he's a language professor, right? And he was talking about how speech works, right? And so he gives the rest of the talk in Gen Alpha, and the kids in the audience is just killing themselves laughing. And he also has subtitles for the people who, like, for us.
Yeah.
Because I mean, I've heard them say the stuff they say, but I have no idea what it means. But that's what I found about this. It was a lot of. I mean, sometimes I like that. I like it when they don't go into a lot of explanation about stuff, right? Like, not too much exposition, but Yeah, it was difficult to sort of follow along at first, but it kind of has a rhythm, I guess, is the weird thing about it. What do you guys think about it, the show in general?
I found it a bit uneven. I felt like the middle part I actually kind of cared about the most. I was having a hard time getting into the first couple episodes.
Yeah.
I kind of wasn't all that jazzed about the final two. So it really felt like the heart of this story here for me was the middle two episodes, episodes 3 and 4. And so I think that one of the things that hurts this, and to their credit, they do try to write around this. It comes up as, okay, so you need something to help your suit, empower your suit. It's like, yeah, bro, but I don't have money. Okay, can you just call the Wakandas? No, I can't because I'm embarrassed. Like,
yeah,
it's not super heroic. I mean, it is a practical way to get around the, like, the Wakandans just come in and solve everything, but you really, in real life, would be saying, hey, guess what? Superheroes over here, can you come over and help me kick their butts?
Yeah.
and let's get done with this. Like, it's a bit contrived.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I think I struggled the same way that you both described. I watched the first little bit and, obviously the premise is that she's a genius, but she's, kind of more interested in doing her own thing than following the rules. And they sort of set her up like that with getting kicked out of MIT. So she heads home to Chicago and then very quickly breaks bad, right? Like, and I found myself struggling through those first few episodes where she's like very willingly participating in crime. And, all in the name of, in her mind, I think she's justifying it as, well, greater good. I'm going to do great things. I'm going to change the world. I'm going to be, doing great things once I can get my equipment. I just have to do these jobs or whatever. But it made, I think, Riri a bit of an unlikable character right off the hop. You didn't get to know her as much. Certainly, she was not the star of Wakanda Forever. She was a supporting character. So, we developed some affection for her, but I don't think I loved that character coming out of it. And so to sort of have her come in without a huge relationship to the audience and have her immediately start making such bad choices, some of which are, some of the characters that they're messing with, like when Parker, when the Hood shoots the bullet and curves it around her and shoots the one guy and sort of hits him in the shoulder and he falls down, that's one thing. But some of these other characters are like winging knives at people, like they're not getting back up. So I don't know, like accomplice to murder is a strange place to start with a heroic character. And I guess the idea is that, you bring her low and then she rises back up. But it just felt like maybe it was a little too low for my taste, where I was like, wow, like, and I found myself struggling with the racial element of it too, because, she's a very strong, proud black character. And to have her immediately turn to a life of crime when stuff turns bad for her, I felt like was a bit of a bad stereotype. That I didn't love right off the hop as well. And again, I think they turned it. I agree with you, Jaime, that the first couple episodes were a bit of a struggle. Some good stuff in there, but it was a bit of a struggle. But as it wore on, I enjoyed it more and more. And, found myself by the, 4th, 5th episode thinking like, okay, actually I'm enjoying this more than I thought I was going to after the first couple. And then the final episode was a real kind of head scratcher where you're like, oh, so she's kind of learned her lesson about what she needs to do. And then she does another dumb thing. And you're like, but remember the growth that you just went through? Like, what, why? It was such a strange place to bring her character after her journey through this first 5 episodes where she sinks very low and then she sinks even lower and then she realizes, no, this is not the kind of person I want to be. This is what, and then brings it back up and then takes a nosedive at the end. I really struggled with that, and I really struggled with it because I found myself thinking, okay, so this shows, the background for the show is long and challenging. They filmed this years ago. it was done and in the can in 2022. Like, this has been
really?
around
Wow.
for a while. It kind of kept getting shoved around. There was, there was rumors that it was a bit of a troubled, Disney Plus didn't know what to do with it and everything else. And then, we talked about it when we heard how they were releasing it, where they basically dumped it in 2 weeks. It felt like they were just kind of like, yeah, we also made this, so we're just going to put it out. It didn't feel like there was a lot of love behind it. And then it kind of ends on this, not inconsequential reveal and inconsequential decision. And I don't know where they go from here. Like, are we going to see Riri again in a new Wakanda movie? Well, she kind of divorced herself from Wakanda in this series. Are we going to see her in, like, Avengers Doomsday? Like, but why? I just don't know how we get a satisfying next chapter of this. Maybe because of the supernatural element they added, it ties into the next Doctor Strange movie would make a logical sense. Or there's rumors that they're going to do Strange Academy kind of series at some point down the road. I mean, they introduced Zelma in this, so there definitely is some elements of supernatural young people kind of thing that they could do. I feel like it's ultimately a bit unsatisfying because it leaves on a big, like, oh, she's made a terrible decision. Where do we go from here? I have no idea. And it kind of speaks to, so this was technically the last piece of phase 5 of the MCU. This was the last part of that. And the next part starts next week with Fantastic Four First Steps. I think this is emblematic of phase 5, where there's so many loose ends. Like, Eternals has this big question mark to it. There's all these, like, what are we setting up? Where's this all going? Are they going to pay this off kind of decisions that were made during phase 5, where I think they were thinking, oh, well, we can't make mistakes. We're Marvel and it's kind of off to the races. I just don't know where we rejoin this story that ends up being both refocused and not just having her being some other part of somebody else's story. And, that sort of lands the plane on introducing a character as theoretically important as the freaking devil, So I don't know. I don't know what to make of all this.
It's no Section 31, that's for sure.
Okay, so no, it's not. And we all thank goodness for that. Again, I found myself feeling very mixed about this. I enjoyed large portions of it. I think, I thought some of the performances were terrific. Dominic Thorne, who played Riri, was, I thought, really good. The emotional aspect with Natalie and Natalie, the real Natalie and the Natalie the AI. I thought the dynamic of exploring that was really interesting, and the tragedy of loss and what would you do to have that time. All these different things are really interesting. I think the supporting cast that they had around her, especially because it was so many different people of color, which is again a nice thing for them to start mixing more of into the MCU. That was really nice. I thought Riri's mom, played by Angie White, was great. I struggled a little bit with the Parker Robbins Hood character, which was Anthony Ramos. Again, a character who's, deeply flawed, clearly they tried to make him, a bit more of an empathetic villain, but also is clearly a murderer. And, it's hard to feel deeply sympathetic for him, and yet that he's also tortured and frustrated and being manipulated.
Is he a character from the books as well? Like, yeah,
the Hood is a probably within the last 20 years character, and a good one, and it's had some really interesting arcs. Had a crossover with the Avengers at one point. Was sort of a thorn in their side for an arc that was quite good. And I think the other one we need to mention is Zeke Stain, Alden Ehrenreich, the Han Solo himself, returns to the Disney fold after the ill-fated, although some people very much loved Solo. when I saw him, I was like, oh, this guy's really charismatic. I actually kind of like him. Why does he seem familiar? And I'm like, oh, it's Alden Ehrenreich, because he's at first he's got the shaggy hair and then he's got the buzz cut, and so I just didn't quite pick it up right away. I mean, I think Alden's a great actor. I really do. I think I've seen him in other parts, and I do think he's a very good actor. And I thought he was actually probably one of the more compelling parts of this series. Again, where he fits going forward, is he just part of this? I'm curious. It seems like a weird thing to have him sort of pop in and pop out, but and then Sacha Baron Cohen, like what? After all the talk over many series, the Scarlet Witch series and the Doctor Strange, and we're finally going to get this character. We finally get this character. I don't know. He was great. He was definitely like going for it, but ultimately is what we get from this character what we expect from this character, and is what we get from this character just the start, or is this just I just don't know how they land this, how and when they land this plane. That's, I think, ultimately what's going to make or break this series. I don't think you can make a fair assessment. If you were going to make a fair assessment of 6 episodes, you'd say it was a little up and down. There were some great performances, but ultimately, I'm not sure it landed in a very satisfying and conclusionary way. If they do a second season, or they tell Riri's story well somewhere else and it caps it off, then maybe it's terrific. But as a standalone 6 episodes, your mileage may vary.
Yeah, he was also, Aaron was also in Oppenheimer.
Yeah.
He was the aide to Tony Stark.
Yep.
Not Tony Stark, or Robert Downey Jr.
Yep.
Cool. All right, should we move on to our watch list now that we've lambasted Ironheart?
Was that a lambasting? I thought it was,
No. We were all confused. We're all confused.
Yeah, it is.
No, I got to say, well, actually, one thing I was surprised by is the fact that you said they sat on this for 3 years. That's a long time to sit on a potential. Think about the character, the girl who played Riri. Like, this work has been sitting. Like, if you look at her IMDb page, there's not much there, right? So for her, it's kind of costly. And if they had done this, and Aaron, I forget the last name.
Alden Ehrenreich, yeah.
Alden Ehrenreich, yeah. If he had Oppenheimer, like this would have come out before Oppenheimer, theoretically, right? So
yeah,
it's kind of an odd thing to sit on.
And there was talk that there was going to be ties more into some of the movies from this. There was talk that his character of Zeke Stain was gonna appear in other projects and stuff like that. Ultimately, the edits sort of edited around all this.
He's somebody's son, right? He's the son of the guy in Ironheart 2.
No, from Iron Man 1. So the
Iron Man 1, yeah.
One. All the way back to the beginning of the MCU. So this is the character that was played by the dude in the original movie.
That was 1? That was 2.
No, that was way back in 1. Yeah. So it's a strange thing to sort of circle back to. Of we're all the way back here, and I don't know. It's a strange choice. I think everything I needed to know about what Disney thinks about this show is the fact that they dropped 6 episodes in 2 weeks and replaced it. And replaced it on the summer schedule with nothing. Like, at least you could have had this come out in, 4 weeks or 5 weeks or something, just to try and fill the summer schedule. But they didn't even do that. The fact that they dumped it around the 4th of July and stuff, it's a strange choice. It doesn't.
Well, they knew the bear was coming, so maybe they had to make room for it. Or whatever.
Maybe.
And then they dropped the bear all at once too.
Yep, they sure did.
Whatevs. All right, well, let's move on to our watch list. So I've got a couple of things, obviously, because we were off. I got to cover off a few things here. 28 Years Later, which is Danny Boyle and the director of photography, I think, back together again for a story that picks up. This one follows. Apparently, it's a sequel to 28 Days Later, not 28 Weeks Later, because 28 Weeks Later was they were producing it, but Danny Boyle wasn't involved in it. So there's original author and Danny Boyle was in this. So I got to say, it's a very good movie. Like there's some eccentric characters in it. There's some the interesting thing with the rage virus is still there. But this is like, what if England had, or Great Britain, I should say, which is the entire Ireland, if you didn't know what Great Britain is, if it was like quarantined for 28 years, and these people were just left to survive there, what would happen to them, right? Because the funny thing is, the rest of the world is still going on. They have cell phones and they have, Instagram and stuff like that, but they don't. But these guys are just living on Great Britain, like that. That's kind of a weird sort of stretch, but very good story. It's more about the son than it is about our guy who plays that movie. The guy with the three names from what's it called? You know what I mean? Like Aaron Taylor Johnson.
Oh yeah. I was going to say Neil Patrick Harris, so I'm glad you got there.
Yeah. Oh, because I said three names. Yeah. No. Yeah. Yeah. He played Craven. That's what it was. He Kick-Ass. I'm thinking about him from Kick-Ass. That's what I was trying to remember. But yeah, he's really good in it. He plays the father of the son, and it's more about the adventure of the son. So it's a coming of age story. The son has to go and do this sort of ritual, which involves going into where the rage virus sufferers are, who have evolved. And it's a little bit like, having gone through COVID, it's a bit more like COVID as opposed to like the clickers in The Last of Us and that kind of stuff, or even the zombies and The Walking Dead. So it's not kind of a zombie movie per se, but there is that sort of aspect to it. Yeah, and really interesting. Ralph Fiennes is in it, plays a really interesting role. The mother is Jodie Comer, right? Who has a strange sort of, I'm just going to say she's a very interesting character, very eccentric character. I'll just leave it at that. But yeah, I think definitely if you're curious about this, you don't necessarily need to see it on the big screen, but I do think when it comes out on your choice of streaming services, I think you will enjoy it. It was a good movie.
I have a question for you. I have not seen it. I know that it was shot back to back with a sequel that's coming out 28 years later. The Bone Temple is coming out in January. Does it end in a conclusionary way, or does it very much feel like it's set up for its sequel?
No, I don't think it's set up for a sequel, but yeah, the Bone Temple is an interesting aspect of this particular episode. This is more about the boy's journey. I guess you're right. There's a very beginning of the movie, and it's in the trailer, so I'm not giving anything away. But there's a bunch of kids who are being put in this room by their parents and told to stay there and don't come out of this room no matter what, right? And the Teletubbies are on the TV, right? So these little Scottish kids are all sitting there watching Teletubbies, and they're freaking out because they know something's going on, but their parents won't tell them what it is, right? That's the setup, right? And one of the kids in that room ends up meeting the hero of the young boy at the very end of this movie. So you're right. So they're right. There is a pickup at the end, which clearly could doesn't get resolved, but could lead into a sequel. Yeah. Okay. All the while you're thinking, I mean, I don't know about you, but I kind of know you have this kid who gets out of this situation, obviously grows up, right? And then I was thinking that I guess this is sort of a spoiler, but the Aaron Taylor Johnson character, I thought that was the little kid having grown up, right? 28 years later, right? But yeah, I'll just leave it at that. I'm not going to say anymore. But you're right. There is a spin at the end that could lead into a sequel, and that ties in with the fact that you told me the name of the movie ties into stuff that Ralph Fiennes' character is doing. Okay. Yeah. So yeah, definitely. But I found this very good. I mean, I've always enjoyed Danny Boyle's movies, right from Trainspotting all the way through Slumdog, and of course, I did go back and watch 28 Days Later, which some parts of it don't hold up, but I was a little miffed at Christopher Eccleston because he left Doctor Who and then went and did this movie and went and did that movie, and I really didn't like his character as a person. I didn't like the character in 28 Days Later. So yeah, but, yeah. I don't know if you haven't watched that, but that's another good movie. But I don't know that it necessarily holds up anymore at this point in time. The other piece I have for follow up here is the Murderbot Diaries. We talked about that a little bit. I don't know if you've been watching it or not, or you watched it. We just finished the series. I read the 1 through 5 books. I'm in the 5th book right now. 1 through 5, they're novellas, so they're like 3 hours long. Because I wanted to sort of get them in. And the first season is the first book, right? Or the first novella. And then there's, like I said, there's 4 more, and I'm in the 5th one. The 5th one is a longer, like I don't know what she's done. It's no longer 4 hours or 3 hours long. It's now 10 hours long, you know, so. And I'm kind of I'm struggling through getting through it because they're very repetitive stories, right? It's kind of like this big long story rather than 5 separate books. But that's what it is. Anyway, so I'm just sort of enjoying them, but sort of like getting tired of them. To be honest with you. And then of course, F1 I've got here. I talked about F1 earlier in the technology section of our show. I saw it on IMAX on the first, actually the day before it opened because I managed to go at noon on one of the better IMAX theaters. Not the best IMAX theater I could have gone to see it in, but and I was telling Jonathan earlier today that the first scene where you see Brad Pitt waking up to go and, you know, he's a race car driver, clearly. He goes to join a race. He's waking up. He's at Le Mans, which is the 24-hour race, and drivers take shifts. So he's napping, gets up, you know, he's walking onto the pitch or whatever to go and jump in the car and do his shift, right, for the Le Mans race. But the soundtrack is A Whole Lot of Love by Led Zeppelin, played on those 47 IMAX speakers in a way that you've never heard before. So if you do nothing else about F1, try to see it in IMAX if you can. It's a really good movie. Like, I mean, some of the reviews of it sort of said it's Top Gun with cars instead of planes. It is and it isn't. I mean, the author's the same, the producer and the filmmaker are the same people. It's a lot of Apple stuff in it. I mean, there is. I do have to warn you. There is an Apple commercial in the middle of the movie. But you know, there's a scene where they're doing they have to do some heavy calculations. So there's a Mac Studio there, and she's working on a Mac Studio, and she's using a couple of Apple High-Res Pro X, was it the Pro Display XDRs, which are the incredibly expensive monitors, right? So the most expensive gear you can buy from Apple is on display there. But surprisingly not the Mac Pro, Jaime, which is weird. Yeah. Anyway, so that's right in the middle of the movie. But yeah, definitely. And like I said here in the notes here, I've got a driver, Brad Pitt driving at F1 at over 60. That's science fiction, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So, and that's pretty much my picks for this week. So,
cool.
Go see F1.
I got a couple of things to look ahead to. So, speaking of Apple, we've got one of their flagship sci-fi shows returning on July 11th, which for us is very soon. Foundation is back for season 3. So your mileage may vary. I found season 1 a bit of a tough go, but there was definitely enough there that I wanted to keep going. I found season 2 much better and enjoyed it a lot, although there was definitely there's definitely a high confusion level on that show. There's just a lot of different overlapping narratives, time spans. It takes these huge leaps forward in time, so it can be a bit of a tough follow. I know a lot of people who are fans of the book have said now's where it starts to get good because we're introduced to some new characters and things start to sort of pick up from here. I've seen the trailers; they look good, and the early reviews that have started dribbling out for the people who have already seen the first season or the third season say that it really hits its stride here. So I'm really looking forward to seeing how this lands, and then sort of seeing where they go next. I really like a lot of the actors, and as we talked about on previous seasons of the show, it's beautiful. It's just an absolutely beautiful, this is where having Apple money to splash around really pays off, because it looks gorgeous and unique, and the uniqueness is something that I really am happy to invest my time in, because it doesn't feel like anything else. The tech, the look, the animation, there's so much good in there that I really enjoy. So I'm really looking forward to seeing what they do next. So that's
in the next book. One of my favorite characters is in it. I just hope they don't ruin it. That's all I'm going to say.
Yeah, we'll see. And the other thing that's coming out is the new James Gunn Superman movie hits theaters today. So I think Tim and I will try and make an effort to see it here in the beautiful New Brunswick cinemas. But yeah, interesting too. Like there was, I don't know if you guys followed along earlier this week, but there was an embargo on the reviews. One review leaked out and it was extremely negative, and people were like, uh-oh. And then a bunch of other places broke the embargo as well to combat that by putting out positive reviews. And in the end, the positive reviews were far, far, far more than the negative ones. A lot of people said it is the closest they've seen to a comic book come to life. It's joyful and colorful and fun and fast moving and just a lot of fun. And honestly, if you were going to tell me that James Gunn was going to make a Superman movie, that's the exact phrases I would have used. Is it'll be bright, it'll be pithy, it'll be fast moving, it'll have some great needle drops, and there'll be some nice moral messages mixed in there, but not too heavily handed. And that seems to be the review so far. So I'm keen to see this. I mean, I like James Gunn's films. I think he's got a real a style to him, and obviously this is an important movie for DC fans, because they want to kick off a new version of the DC cinematic universe. They want to have people care about characters like Superman again, as opposed to just Batman, and Batman. I'm hopeful, and I'm not sure that I would have said I'm hopeful a few years ago when we were seeing some of the sort of the last vestiges of the previous incarnation of the Superman thing. I think the thing that I liked most about what I've seen so far is they are not shying away from the legacy of what's come before. They're playing the John Williams score from the original 1978 Superman, which is one of the most beautiful orchestral compositions ever put to paper. And why in all the time since they haven't leaned back into that, I don't understand, because it's so good. I'm very hopeful, and I think that's a nice thing to be, in the same way that I'm hopeful about the Fantastic Four. I know people have been taking a lot of shots at the MCU in this Phase 5. I have been part of that as well. It has always kicked on all cylinders. I'm excited for Superman, and I'm excited for Fantastic Four. And I'm happy that I'm excited for those things. I don't want to be going into these movies being like, please be good, please be good. I want to be going in going, this is going to be good. And that's the feeling I get when I see these trailers, and when I read about James Gunn's interviews and stuff like that. It looks like everybody enjoyed themselves. It looks like they made something that's really fun, and I hope that's exactly what it is.
Have you been watching Rick and Morty?
No, I'm behind on Rick and Morty.
Oh, because James Gunn's in the latest episode.
I heard he made a cameo this week. I saw that pop up on social media. Yeah,
it's a bit more than a cameo, but yeah. And actually, one thing just before we go, I was watching, just caught my eye on here is the 28 years later. Apparently, they did sort of a bullet time thing with like a whole bunch of iPhone 15s on a rig. So they had like a whole bunch of iPhones like on a big curve, and as they're chasing the actors. So I'd have to go back and watch the movie now to see it. Apparently, there's some sort of like kind of trick photography in there. But anyway, yeah. I mean, yeah.
Yeah, just in time for the Fantastic Four movie. The nice folks at Zillow, for the low price, surprisingly low price, given that it's in New York, in Manhattan, $4,444,444, you can bid for the Baxter Building, the famous place where the Fantastic Four live. And they can be your neighbors. They're even listed there. Got cool, good stuff like fantastic views. It's over in Midtown. Indoor barbecue. It's got a skyport garage and stuff, so could be yours. They've got a little video tour. They've got beautiful photos, actually, letting you really see the interior design. So,
see, 4 beds, 4 baths, 4,444 square feet.
Yeah. See, Tim's been giving me a hard time about my nice new house here in New Brunswick, but, it does not have a shuttle bay for my flying car. So, you can't have everything.
It's true.
There you go.
I haven't met your robot yet, though, John.
Well, there's always tomorrow.
Cool. Well, I guess that's it for another episode. So, hey, Jonathan, if people want to get in touch with you, where would they find you?
Oh, I'd start by looking on Blue Sky, maybe Instagram, or at JPK News, or you can find me on YouTube at youtube.com/@JPK.
All right. And Jaime, if people want to get in touch with you, where do they find you?
I'm on Instagram as @DevWithAHair.
All right, my name is Timitra, Timmitra, and I can be found on Blue Sky and on Mastodon and creeping on Threads. So until next time, we will see you in the future. Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.
Bye. All right.
You've been listening to the Spotcast podcast. If you want to find out more about the podcast or see the episode show notes, visit the Spotcast website at spotcast.com. If you have feedback or questions, you can get in touch with us on the website. If you like the show, please consider recommending us to a friend, writing a review on iTunes, or pledging any amount at patreon.com/spotcast. You can find details on how to help us on our website, spotcast.com/sponsor us. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you in the future.
Started watching Sandman season 2 yet?
I was going to say, is that out now? Because I keep seeing ads for it. I wasn't sure if it was just... A lot of times I see ads for shows I've watched before. I guess they just send them because they think maybe you haven't seen them before. But
yeah, no, they've broken it into 2 parts, and the first part dropped, I think, this week or end of last week.
Did you start watching it, or?
No, I've been a little too busy this little stretch here, but it's on my list for sure. I'm still struggling with it, given everything that we've talked about. But
yeah, I was going to say it's kind of
as a lot of people have pointed out who are on the creative side of it. Hey, a lot of us worked on this, not just one person. I'm like, yeah, but the one person did a lot. So yeah,
mm-hmm. Which is too bad. I enjoyed his books.
I love his books. I love his writing. I've had the chance to interview him a couple times. He was always very pleasant to me. I was extremely saddened to hear about the allegations. Just an absolute blow. But I think obviously the way things have played out with a bit of a blacklisting, and obviously things taking a turn there are, obviously it's good that if people are behaving the way he's accused of being behaved, then that they're being caught and being exposed and not being allowed to continue. But yeah, it's really unfortunate that it's cast a shadow over this whole thing.
Yeah, that is true.
So, Jaime, you said you're off next week? You're not going to be around?
Yeah, I'll be in Nashville for a weekend work event. It's a hackathon for credit unions, and to make it easier for those folks to be able to get away from work and everything, and yet still participate. it takes place over like a Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So I'll be flying to Nashville on Thursday.
You visit Tammy while you're there?
Did she move closer? Because I always remember she was like halfway between Nashville and Memphis, right?
Yeah, she was right smack between them. But I don't know. She moved. She technically moved closer, but it's kind of like a roundabout kind of way, right? Like she's moved like north, but there's two ways to get there, and sometimes one road's blocked and whatever. So it's a bit of a convoluted answer, but I'm not sure that it's necessarily easier to get to. Yeah. You drop her a note. I don't know. She might be in town or whatever, or not. Your call.
Indeed. But yeah, either way, I'll be out, so I'll have to watch Strange New World like on the airplane or something.
Oh, does that start next week?
Yeah, the 17th of July is the start of season 3.
Oh, goody. Yeah, so I don't know if we haven't mentioned on the show yet, but Justin is now working on Star Trek Strange New Worlds.
And what did you do?
I ordered him a Spotcast t-shirt.
As well, you should. Yeah.
Always be promoting. Always be closing.
Yeah. I said you just need to get the stickers that we had. Remember,
just put on all the equipment.
We went to Fan Expo one year, and I had like 10 of them in my pocket, so I just kept going around and sticking them to things, hoping that we could drum up. Drum up a little extra business. I said, we just need to get some of those and just like stick them on the side of the sets and stuff. On the side of the chair. Yeah.
I try to put them places that get noticed too.
Yeah. As I think about it, Tim, are you also not going to be traveling on next Thursday?
I think I will be traveling next Thursday. Now you say that.
There you go. So maybe we're going to have to consider doing the first 2 episodes in one go together.
That's true. That's true. You mean you and me?
No, I mean all 3 of us. If you're not available next Thursday.
It comes out on Thursday.
Thursday. You're traveling Thursday. Jaime's traveling on Thursday. So maybe we.
Am I traveling on Thursday? I've got to check my supervisor. I'll check what you said. Hang on one sec. I am going back on. I forget what I'm going back on. We extended. What did I tell you? I was going back on the 16th last week?
You said originally you said the 16th, and then you said no, we're staying the 17th.
17th, yes.
Yeah.
That's the nuts.
There you go.
Yeah, because there was a miscommunication. I had to add an extra day to the car rental. Yeah. Because I'm an idiot.
Pass the nuts.
Because I'm a man, and I can change if I have to, I guess.
Yep.
That's the man prayer, Jaime, if you've never heard the man prayer before.
You've been in a long-term relationship, Jaime. I'm sure you've had to do it from time to time.
Indeed.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, I got to get going because I have to get up at 5:45 to drive to Quebec City. So
to buy a lawnmower.
That's because that's the thing I do now.
Alrighty.
Cool.
Yeah, I needed a large riding lawnmower for my new yard, Jaime, and because of the tariffs that are currently happening here, no one in our province will order new lawnmowers because they are way more expensive than they normally would be, and they don't want to have to pass those costs on. So every riding lawnmower in New Brunswick is sold. So I have to drive 5.5 hours to Quebec City, which is the capital of Quebec, to purchase a
No, you have to drive to Quebec City, and you have to drive onto an island and drive almost half the way up to St. Lawrence.
Yes. I'm driving far tomorrow with a huge trailer attached to a truck to go pick up this lawnmower because of the tariffs.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Ask me how happy I am about the tariffs. Oh, and the good news is that tonight there was more tariffs announced, so good stuff there.
Yeah. Thanks, Obama.
Yeah. Jaime, did you, I know it's not exactly the same neck of the woods, but that flooding in Texas is some scary stuff. Did you know anybody that was caught in any of that?
Thankfully, no, nobody in that area.
It's great.
So that is real scary. It's practically biblical how fast that water was rising.
Some of the videos were just absolutely staggering. How yeah, you're right. Like it looked like something out of a science fiction book or something. Like it was just crazy how fast it came on. But I thought it was very funny that came out at the same time that the letter was written to the Canadian government telling us to please stop letting our smoke from our wildfires drift to America. That one also made me laugh this week.
They thought that was our fault, or
yeah, six different political officials from northern United States said, hey, it's kind of ruining our summer when so much smoke blows down from Canada. Can you guys do a better job of controlling your wildfires? And I was like, hey, you know how you guys contribute like huge amounts of pollution that are causing global warming? That's causing our big forests catch fire. And also, they clearly didn't look up the facts that the reason these things are happening is because of lightning strikes. That's the number one cause of forest fires. We're good, but we can't control the fires. That's not a thing. I mean, you could try.
Yeah.
Anyway, I got a boot. Jaime, good to hear your voice. Looking forward to diving into season 3 of Strange New Worlds with you.
Likewise.
Alrighty. Until next time.
Okay, folks.
Talk to you later.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for selling your car to Carvana. Here's your check.
Whoa, when did I get here?
What do you mean?
I swear it was just moments ago that I accepted a great offer from Carvana online. I must have time traveled to the future.
It was just moments ago. We do same-day pickup. Here's your check for that great offer.
It is the future.
It's the present and just the convenience of Carvana. Sorry to blow your mind.
It's all good. Happens all the time.
Sell your car the convenient way to
Carvana.
Pickup times may vary and fees may apply.
If you're a podcast host, listen up, this one's for you. My name is Allie Jackson. I'm the host of Finding Mr. Height, a dating and relationship podcast that I've been doing for 4 years now, sharing my positive and practical approach to dating that's built on my own life experience. And I wanted to share another experience that I've had, my secret behind monetizing my show. It's called Red Circle, and I was just telling my colleague about how much I love their platform. With Red Circle, not only am I getting a seamless hosting experience, but I also love the support I receive in ad sales. It's not just typical ad sales either. It's targeted opportunities based on my show and my life. And the platform is super simple. You just set your preferences and Red Circle matches you with sponsors that align with your show. You can vet every opportunity and their platform gives you great analytics. More recently too, my Red Circle team has brought me opportunities outside of my podcast on social media to really augment the podcast partnerships, bring them full circle. I just can't recommend them enough. If you want to give it a try, go to redcircle.com to get your free trial. That's redcircle.com for a free trial.